Hey, what's happening? Steve Maeda, we're in Austin, Texas, TSL Online, week five of the change. If you've been doing it, you know how awesome it is. And this is part where we're going to take a little bit of break, but in that break, we're going to evolve to learn some of the best skills that we can have as a man, so that we can be the best expression of ourselves, to truly sharpen the sword. So we had the identity workbook. We worked crazily hard to really look deeply within ourselves. Then we went to the anatomy of attraction, how to communicate that, the social dynamic. It's a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of content, a lot of stuff to study, and the assignments and exercises keep you active. Right now, what we're going to look at is what we call the TSL daily maintenance. And it's basically 5 things, very, very simple, but they allow you to be the best expression of yourself. If you want to be the better man, you have to cultivate that from within. It's not going to come just from talking to people. Although, let me tell you, socializing and being sexual in a healthy way, in a truly expressive way, will change your life and evolve you as a person. These will help with that. These will help massively. And they're really simple. They're not going to take up too much time out of your day. I am definitely by no means perfect. You can look on the forum and see that I cannot always do them every day, but I stay active on them and my life gets better. If there were just a few things that kept me living as the best possible expression of myself, it would not be the amount of sex I had, the amount of friends I had, but what I did in those situations while I was being sexual and expressing myself, or I was being social and expressing my real self. That's what we're going to get into. You get on this train to do the TSL 5 dailies, and you will see your life change in a way that you never thought was imaginable. Let's do it. Let's learn. Awesome to have you guys on. If you're not a part of TSL Online, upgrade to it. You know the story, and let's get started. All right, guys, here we are once again today on one of these amazing TSL calls that is for our amazing group of TSL Online. And what we want to do in TSL Online is basically live a good life where we can be social and be sexual and have a good lifestyle, put ourselves into it where we can be authentic expressions, all that sort of stuff. And when we use those terms of being authentic, of being social, of being sexual, we really mean it. Authenticity means we are really being ourselves. Being sexual means that we are having sex. That is our goal, is to communicate sexually in any way, shape, or form. And to be social, to make friends with people, connect, experience a full range of emotions. So if we're being social and not getting the results of being social, like making friends and making connections, experiencing emotion, if we're being sexual without the results of being sexual, like, a guy who sleeps with a lot of women, even if he wants to be a player, that's cool. But what kind of lifestyle are you going to have with that? And you got to start experiencing those things. We can't be detached from it. If you're a guy that wants to have sex and get in a relationship or whatever it is, but we need to start feeling and experiencing the results of what it's like to be social and be sexual. And in order to do that, we take a look at that in a different angle. Part of that is the TSL daily maintenance. This is somewhat of a bonus for the group, but it's something that I stress a lot and believe in quite a bit. Okay, so what the hell is the TSL daily maintenance? It's basically 5 actions to live a better life. What's important about these actions is these aren't written in stone. They're meant to be adapted and explored and done in different ways. One thing that's very important that we talk about is one of the big themes in TSL Online is there is no success if you're not happy, and there's no success if you're not being you. So if you're not happy, it's not success. If you're not being yourself, it's not you. And so what's important with that is even if we're getting results, but we're not being authentic or it's making us unhappy, that's really pointless. And when we are able to achieve results while being ourselves and being happy, we're actually going to find that there's a lot more to us, and to the actions and to the experience. It's a very cool thing. All right. Now, very simply, what I'd like to say about this book is that we're just covering 5 things, and they're kind of self-explanatory. But if you take part in these 5 things, It'll put you in a good basic social mode. And this is something that I talk about quite a bit. It'll put you in a good social mode. It will help you get in touch with you. And if you're having sex, it will help you get into the meaning of what that sexuality is. And what I mean by that is sometimes there's advanced guys, sometimes there's new guys, sometimes there's like all over the place of what our experience level is. The answer is always going to be some level of authenticity, some level of being social, and some level of being sexual. Okay, so all these are helping you get towards that. We have a little bit where we talk about the path to personal excellence here. And what this is breaking down, and if you haven't received a copy of this PDF workbook, it will be mailed out to you tonight. But what we look at here with TSL Online is I've always noticed that when I work with guys, their lives can start to improve in a lot of different ways. In fact, before the call, as I'll always say, I learned how to teach from other pickup instructors, okay, but not the most about pickup and social dynamics. I learned a lot about pickup and social dynamics from my clients and students that I worked with, and the most about seduction from women. But one of the examples of learning a lot from clients and the interaction that we have here in TSL, which I try and really promote a community, that's why we have these calls and interact, and it's so hands-on. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be entertained by it, and I'd probably hate it. But one of the things with that is that what I noticed is that people's lives change in its entirety. And just before this call, before we started recording, we got some mention from one of our mastermind guys, Rick, who was saying, well, man, if we take it into the baseline of man-woman relations, men and women wanting to be attracted to each other, seeking pleasure, looking for enjoying pleasure, and go off of the pleasure principle, which he was explaining a little bit about. If we look towards those things, anything getting in the way of that, whether that's our health, our maybe ways of living life, our ways of connecting with ourselves, those should be taken care of to help us experience the pleasure principle or pleasure between other people better. And what I noticed with guys who took this course or that I've worked with over the years, man, their lives get better. That could go in any way, shape, or form of how you want to define it. But man, that is the goal. I honestly am very happy if you're getting laid a lot, you're meeting lots of people, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to live within the definition of what pickup is supposed to be, because what it's been for me and what I expect it to be for everybody, because it can be, is to make your life better. You're going to think better. You're going to know who you are better. You're going to experience life in all of its areas in a better way. That could mean being a badass businessman, or it could mean being somebody that just is happy with who you are. Um, this talks a little bit about some of the philosophies within the sexual life as it being a constant way of life. Um, not to spend too much time on this, but man, life is a journey. It's in constant motion, and that is key. We're always working at it. And with TSL, we model all of our social dynamics, our techniques, our philosophies, and all that sort of stuff on the main idea of how life works. Okay, um, sex comes from life. It creates it. It helps us socialize. It's such a big part of us that constant motion is a big, big thing. Here we talk more about life and all that sort of stuff. Um, I think it's really important to have a standard to look towards, and that's what we're trying to discover here with the TSL daily maintenance, is that when we don't know something, we go back to the basics. We go back to how does life work? How do we be social? How do we be sexual? And not to overcomplicate that too much. Really simply, what does life do? It has the will to live. All right, and it everything influences itself. Okay, everything's integrated. Those are things that we can easily see, and no matter what pair of glasses we're looking through. And also, how do we be social? Well, what happens with social people? They're making more friends, they're building connections. We're not talking about power, we're not talking about the ego fulfillment of it. We're talking about what happens when people are social, and what do they do? And that's what we look at. What happens when people are sexual, So you can ask yourself, am I somebody that's integrating myself with the world? Am I somebody that is experiencing a full range of emotions and enjoying social behavior? Am I somebody that it doesn't have to be sexual through a checklist of things, but am I sexual and happy that I've asserted myself and my intent as a man? And do I enjoy the reciprocation of it? If I get rejected, am I still proud to be a man, or was I doing it for another reason? So we want to be social and be sexual and live life for the great benefits of that. These actions are to help you get there. I'm sorry about the small print here for you guys who are watching it. It probably won't come clear on the video. Usually for the video presentations, we blow it up a little bit. But action one is meditation. Okay. Now, one of these things that when it comes to seduction is we got to know ourselves. And by meditation, I'm not, I'm not even avoiding, I'm clearly stating it has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with a form of spirituality or whatever. What I mean by meditation is I want you to be able to look within yourself. And doing that daily is a good thing. I'll tell you this, all these daily actions, if I've done all 5 of them in a day, that can be kind of a rare thing. That may not be the greatest thing, but I try and do a few of these on a daily basis as a form of a habit. And even on the forum, on the Red Network, oftentimes I'll write about it. It's been a little while, but that's a good thing for me to do. I notice when I do it, I become a lot happier and a lot focused on what I really want. Now, how I came into the meditation was even as a child, I would try and meditate. I'd get all into Zen Buddhism or Taoism or even different Chinese styles of meditation, which I was just reading a book that Rick had written about that, which reminded me a lot of the different meditation practices that I would do. But in my teens, in my 20s, I lost the ability to do that. And actually, when I was teaching, I met a guy who's actually the most successful financial client that I ever had. And he's just a really great guy. In fact, we were training in San Francisco, and I remember he said, he's like, well, where do you want to go out tonight? We were spending a week together. And he said, well, we could go to the marina, but I hate that place because it's where douchebags go and the women who love them. And he said, I'll even show you a little test. And it was really funny because when we went to the marina, he went to, I forget what college he went to. Maybe it was Virginia Tech or something like that. But he was literally the guy that every woman there would want. In his 40s, the owner of a massive company, actually have multi-million dollar, but he has $1 billion company, and really amazing dude. He goes up to this girl and he just says, "Hey, what's going on?" or something like that, and she's like, "Yeah, my name's whatever. What school did you go to?" And it's like literally the first thing she said. And he said the school that he went to, and she just turned around. I thought it was funny because he's exactly the type of guy that she would be looking for. What he actually told me, we became good friends, and we still actually talk to this day. Uh, he told me that in his early 30s, he had become a successful entrepreneur, made a lot of money, and I've noticed this to be a consistent story with many entrepreneurs that I've written stacks for, that he lost all his money. And in losing all his money, he got married, he got a divorce. His wife had left him for his like business partner or something fucked up like that. He was like, man, I never took it seriously, but I had actually entertained the idea of suicide at that time. And so I just decided I'm going to be broke and I'm going to join the Zen Center in San Francisco. And he said, him speaking to me now, or at that time, he was like 44 or something. So just 14 years later, he had said, man, for 2 years of not doing anything but meditating, I would credit that to my success now. That would be the one single thing that helped me. And through the years, I noticed that to be a theme with a lot of guys who had some level of success. And for myself, it was hard for me to actually meditate. And so what I did was explore different ways of looking at myself and getting to know myself. I could be going on a walk. Sometimes I'd go on a walk that would be a little bit slower than normal. A lot of times it might be doing an activity. Like, for instance, there could be times when I might be doing a certain type of martial art, and I might consider that a form of meditation, or even playing music. But the key is that I'm exploring within myself and who I am and respecting that once a day. All right. And like I said, I skimp on this sometimes. I don't do it every day. But a habit like that was good for me to be happy with who I was. Didn't necessarily make me run a multi-billion-dollar company, but it's allowed me to see myself as the expression of who I am and be happy with that and not have to seek a status to define myself, but just allow myself to be me. When we're working seduction, that's a huge thing. Knowing yourself is a key thing. Our goals are defined by our happiness, not by what other people tell us. Meditation will help you see that. Our second action is giving. And one of the most important things of this is that when it comes to seduction and it comes to sex, it's an act of an exchange. And a lot of us see it as taking. Sometimes we come to the seduction realm just wanting to be with a woman or just wanting uh, to get some results. And we look with extreme, you know, intensity and dedication of how to get that. Well, what's so interesting is seduction is all about an exchange. It's not about a taking. And because social behavior is also either an aspect or one of the things needed for seduction, but it's still coming from that same root, it's also an exchange. So in order to get either being a socially well-rounded person or a sexually well-rounded person, giving is huge. All right. And a lot of times we see that as low value in the seduction world, and it's one of the reasons why I don't partake in any of that idea or mindset or mentality. Um, I truly believe that that sort of give and take idea of what socializing is supposed to be or that take on it is such an immature way to look at it. And here's the reason why: is possibly in our society that uh, that makes sense, because we have such a consumer-based society. But we've had sex around for a long time. We've had socializing around is an even longer time. And well, actually, no, I don't want to say that. We've had sex around is even a longer time. And then society built kind of around that and culture and whatnot. But there wasn't a value in it. And I think anybody that comes to know true friendship or true seduction, even if you're just having a lot of sex, but or in a relationship, you'll realize that there isn't a scale being weighed that trips, turn on from anybody. And one of the ways to kind of get in a mindset where you can naturally start to be in that state between a man and a woman, feeling that, or between two people just making friends, is when we open ourselves up to giving. Okay. A lot of times we think that that could be low value, but that's really, we're looking through the wrong pair of glasses on that. Um, just to clarify, if we are giving and we get taken advantage of, that doesn't mean that giving's wrong. That means we need to, number one, learn how to respect ourselves and stand up for who we are. And maybe that's how we assert ourselves. But remember, the respect is the important thing, not the maintaining of value. It's the maintaining of who we are and having other people respect it. But honestly, I truly believe one of the fundamentals of TSL and one of the big principles around it is you put out what you get out. If I want to be a guy that is having good relationships with women, I need to act like that. And if I have to act like an asshole to get a result of being good with women, then I'm only going to attract relationships that will attract people who are attracted to assholes. Okay, an example of this might be, let's say I'm generous with somebody. Let's say I meet a girl, I like her, and I buy her a drink. Well, okay, the big problem with that is I don't want to be paying for her time, but if I want to be a generous person, then that might be a sacrifice I make. If she then stops talking to me or whatever because of that, what I need to see is like, how can I amend this, or how can I achieve respect within this? Okay. And maybe that might mean cutting her out and not talking to her. Maybe if she does try and continue to talk to me, I can either not say anything and wait for a better time to say it, or I can confront her there. But that's actually getting respect. It's not performing a tip or a trick to gain attraction. If anything's attractive about that, it would be standing up for yourself. Okay, we're talking more about the counter to this than the actual action, but giving is a key thing. And man, I can't tell you how important this is. Um, I personally don't believe that giving volunteer time to my business, like for instance, if I take a free call from somebody, I don't consider that an act of giving, but you could. I consider an act of giving something which is purely selfless, so that I don't expect a result in or try and control. So, for instance, I might do a whole bunch of volunteer time to which I feel that I have to do or as a commitment on myself. I won't necessarily count that, but what I would count is opening a door for somebody when I didn't have to, or something along those lines. Now, also, one of the acts of giving might be I may not feel like doing something for somebody else, but because I'm in a habit of it, or I did make a commitment of it, but without expectation of a result, that I could also see as an act of giving. Okay. But things that have to do with work or things that have to do with something that I do receive a benefit out of, I personally don't, but you can. Other people might hand out $1 bills or quarters or something like that. But when we get in that act of giving, we get in that natural state of humanity, of what I believe we're really meant to do. I honestly think when we were hunting and gathering and nomadic and we were broken from our tribe, or our tribe had uh, somehow died or something like that, and we saw another human being, our first inclination was the instinct to bond with that person. We might be afraid. We might, you know, have like some feelings of danger around us, but it was not to remain an individual. It was to unify. And I think our urge and need for society and unity and all that sort of stuff has really, really proven that. So the more that we can get in touch with that natural state of compassion or giving, the more we can get in touch with who we are as a person. I will say this, if you're running from that, if you think you can't do it, if you have some negative attitudes or whatever, man, one thing you could do is force yourself to just be giving in some way, shape, or form. It will help you. All right. Action 3 is to be social. You might be like, well, that's kind of self-explanatory. If I just knew how to be social, I wouldn't be taking this course. Well, you already do know how to be social, okay? Being social can just be like the act of giving. You can go up to people and shake their hands. You can go up to people and say hello. You can go and just talk to people to talk. But there is something irreplaceable about truly showing yourself to another human being. That doesn't mean that you're working a technique of vulnerability. That doesn't mean that you need to have a deep emotion associated with it. That doesn't mean that you can be, uh, you know, be high-fiving people or social proof. What this means is that we're just talking to people. And once a day, man, I can't tell you how important I have found this in my own personal life, is talking to somebody else. Now, for me personally, this is actually an interesting take on it and why I believe so much in socializing. In about, so I started teaching like hardcore in 2007, got involved in this stuff 2005, 2006. And when I was doing it, I, of course, like anybody, wanted sex. I wanted, to talk to hot chicks. In fact, I remember I wanted to talk to a few chicks specifically. Like, I could meet people, but it wasn't the people that I wanted. I wanted to have the skill set and ability to be able to meet the people that I wanted. So I learned how to do that. And for me, fortunately or unfortunately, I was very good at it. And so I was able to, uh, you know, be sexual. I was able to get laid. I was able to meet a lot of people, but I wasn't finding enjoyment in it. And I remember in 2008, I went through a big change. And one of the things when reaching out for help and talking to other people that was told to me was, look, man, Be social. Find something that you can believe in. Talk to people. And I remember it was almost like two different pieces of advice. One piece of advice was to find something to believe in. I was like, man, well, I'm not that spiritual person. I don't really want to find out about religion. And he's like, well, find out something that's more powerful than you. And I remember him talking to me, and something clicked to what I had heard somebody say years and years and years and years and years ago, is that they didn't believe in God, but they believed that if two people talked to one another, a change could happen that was bigger than them. Okay. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to think about that. And I went back to my buddy and brought it up to him. And he said, cool. Well, then how would you worship that every day? How would you talk about that? I'd say, well, I talk to people, you know, and he'd say, well, talk to people how? And I was like, well, I guess I'd try and be honest with them once a day. And so that's really what I did. And it was such an interesting point because in my pickup career, I went from being somebody who was like fucking awesome. Like, I mean, I I got laid all the time. I that's what I did. It would be like what you see advertised in pickup. So that was something that I was doing actively, but unhappy. And yeah, I could brag about it, but I wasn't necessarily happy to going and transitioning to this person where I was just going up to people and speaking honestly with them. And what I noticed is I became very happy, but my skill set or the results went down because there was a big learning curve change. And then what slowly happened over the years, 2008, 2009, 2010, and so on, I learned to develop a skill set beyond that, which not only made me happy, gave me results of what I really valued towards sex and and relationships, and I learned a whole lot about myself. So being social for me was fundamentally, like, it was absolutely instrumental in my change. And that's as simple as going up to somebody and saying hi. But what I mean clearly in being social is be social for the results of being social. If you're just going up and talking to people for value, you're not going to be uh, receiving necessarily the benefits. Okay? If you're really popular, that's cool. But are you making real friends? Are you exchanging emotions with people? Are you experiencing a full range of emotions when talking to people? That means the good and the bad. Happy, mad, sad, hurt, ashamed, joy, afraid, all that sort of stuff. But in addition to that, are we realizing that it's good to be social? A lot of times we become hypersocial in the seduction industry, but become less social or less receiving the benefits of being social with it. So it's very important that uh, we move towards that. Now, this fourth action is to be sexual. How the fuck do you do that every day, man? I can't have sex. What's going on? Da 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 da. But check this out. There are times when I've been really sexually active, but not felt sexual. Okay? And then there are times where I haven't been that sexually active, but felt extremely sexual. So let's define what we mean by this. And when it comes to sex, that means that I'm expressing, or when it comes to being sexual, I'm expressing my desires sexually towards somebody and exchanging with them. Okay? That may not be the physical act of sex, but I've expressed in some form of my communication. That could be verbal, that could be body language, that could be my eye contact, that could be my tonality, that could be the situation that I'm in, that could be how I touch, or it could be simply what I say. But we could be exchanging that. And as long as that I can show that, and it's reciprocated in some way, that's being sexual. Now, in the Nature of Seduction workbook, we talk a lot about sexual health and some of the definitions of that. But right now, what we're going into is just the ability to be the man and present who we are as a sexual being and hopefully exchange within that. And really, in order for us to be sexual, of, of course, to be happy and sexually healthy, we will need an exchange at some point, and we'll probably need it to be physical at some point. But why can't we first start out being that man that can express who we are in all those ways? All right, and that could be tough at times, but It's something we all can do, and we all have it in us. So don't count yourself out of this action if you haven't been there. How can you show more intent and desire for a woman with your body language? How can you show more intent and desire? In fact, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but basically what seduction is, or the art of seduction is to tell a woman that you want to stick your dick in her, but in a socially acceptable way, in a way that we can verbalize that. So how could I verbalize that I desire and want somebody in a way that she'll accept, in a way that she might exchange better? How can I tell a woman that I think she's attractive and allow her choice of wanting to continue that conversation, happen and actually be part of the seduction? Seduction is dependent upon the choice between two people. So when we think about being sexual every day, how can we present that? If we're just starting out, maybe it might be a body language thing. Maybe it might be a tonality thing. But how can we communicate that we're a sexual being, that we're a man who may desire something with our body language? How can we model it after somebody else and then internalize our real selves with it? Okay? So those are all important things. But every day, if we're sexual in that way, once again, just like being social, just like giving, and just like our self-exploration of meditating, we can get in touch with that core human part, that unique human part that we have, that perhaps other animals have. But man, let me tell you, we have it. We understand it. It might be hard to articulate, but to get in touch with who we are. If we get in touch with that, maybe we won't be so unhappy that we need to validate ourselves with certain quantifiable actions all the time. So being sexual is important. I'm sure we'll have some questions for that. But also this in the write-up, we do talk about all that sort of stuff. Now this fifth action right here is be grateful. Okay? It's very important. I actually didn't really hold on to this one or didn't grab hold of it for a long time. But in the last year, a little bit over that, it's been something which has been fundamental and instrumental in my life. And it's really interesting that I started doing what is called as a gratitude list. You don't necessarily need to do a gratitude list, but I think once a day, you should think about the things that you're really grateful about. I notice when I put pen to paper, my mind changes towards it a little bit. When I put pen to paper, my mind really opens up and I become grateful on a different level. When I can do that, my mind then is clear. And I was actually just talking about this with a buddy at my house where we were doing some personal work on some things revolving around this stuff. But right before the call, and I said, look, man, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get in touch with our real self. Now, maybe our real self might be an angry person. Maybe our real self might be an oversexed person. Maybe our real self might be a kind and beautiful person. It might be a selfish person. But we don't want to get caught up in the reactions of the things we're afraid of. When I can be grateful, and for me personally, I put pen to paper and make a list of like, sometimes it's like 5 things, sometimes it's 10 things, sometimes it just keeps going. I stop caring about the superficialities of life. I stop caring about the reactions and the fears that I have, and my choices of who I am become more clear. Let's say I'm having a bad day and I got rejected by a bunch of chicks, or my girlfriend and I got in a fight, or something happened that affects my mood in a good or a bad way. Whenever I sit down to make a gratitude list, it's always really simple stuff. If I say it, it's not the same. It's like, I'm grateful to have the food I've eaten. I'm grateful to have the house I live in. I'm grateful to have a job where I can interact with people and write about different shit I think about and share it with the world. And, I'm grateful that I have, my dogs. I'm grateful that I live in the US. And I could write about these different things. They're always quite simple. But as soon as I do that, I somehow get in touch with myself, that core humanity that we're really expressing and sharing when it comes to seduction, which we need to be able to share. And that's something that has happened in no other way. In fact, I'd say that for me personally, I've had much more experience with the other 5 actions, but with this 5th action, has changed a lot of my perspectives throughout the year. If I get a little bit clouded, get a little bit jealous, get a little bit sad, get a little bit envious towards somebody, or even very angry or vengeful, I can slip into this gratitude, and somehow what is really me and a lot of the fears and reactions get separated from themselves. All right. Now, what's very important here with the TSL daily maintenance is our expression of being a man, being a human being, being a person that we are, that we're going to share with the world, that we're trying to be more social with, that we're trying to be more sexual with, is an expression that we should be proud of. Life happens every day. You know, we wake up every day to a new day. Our moods are different. Our situations might be different. You know, I can go from one day of having everything and being happy and joyous about it, and having everything and not even seeing the benefits of it. And I can go through a range of situations and a range of emotions where I truly can find that, man, I need to work on myself every day. I need to work on my social life every day. I need to work on my sexual life every day. And just because I've had experiences that might make me a more social or more sexual person, or know some more technique, those experiences that once made me sad years ago when I didn't have as much of a social or sexual life can still happen, you know? And the benefits that I had when I started to have a better social and sexual life that made me happy and joyous because of it, I can't necessarily rely on, because I can't expect man-made action to react me back into happiness. I can't define my happiness by always getting something or getting what I want. That's not what happens in life. What I need to do is I need to daily work on a path so I can be that best expression of myself, so that I can start building a life where every day becomes an expression of who I am. And every day I can react and act in authenticity within that. And when I'm doing that, man, life is good. When I'm doing that, my whole life can work in this great, awesome way, and I can have the ability to share it with everybody and yada, yada, yada. Or perhaps a lot of negative things might happen in my life, yet I have the ability to feel it, experience it, share it with people, and feel the emotions that I have within that moment. What I got to realize is my experience, my humanity, my emotions, the things which make me human and be able to share with other humans and relate with other humans, is a true gift. And whenever I can experience that, man, it's a good thing that I cannot overlook. Once again, thank you for watching this. This is the TSL Daily Maintenance 5 Actions to Live a Better Life. If you do these 5 things: daily meditation, an act of giving, an act of being social, an act of being sexual, and an act of gratitude, I can guarantee you your perspective on life is going to change, and the results of your life over time will change to the point where, man, you might look back a year, 2 years, maybe even more than that later and just go, man, I can't believe how much has happened. That's the goal we're trying to express and share, and the message we're trying to deliver here at TSL Online, and I hope you take us up on it.
Man, some good stuff there. I hope you really paid attention to it and take it seriously. This isn't some sort of new age hokey woo woo, as we might call it, way of living. Really, if you want to be the best expression of yourself, if you want to have the best relationships, the best sex life, the best friends, the best social life, people who have your back and really know you, you have got to cultivate you. That's the TSL 5 dailies. If you want to know more about it, man, ask anybody on the calls. Ask anybody who's been an active member of TSL. This is what we do. And you can adapt it to yourself. We're not saying you have to meditate in a certain way, you have to give in a certain way. Take time to yourself. Be sharing, actually not just be sharing, be giving to other people. Take some time to be social, just say hello. Have an exchange with somebody without expectation. Be sexual, show that intent. Not necessarily have sex. You can have sex and not be sexual, kind of a tricky thing, but we can talk about that. And man, be grateful. One of the greatest things you can do for yourself every day is be grateful for what you have. It's not about getting what you want, but wanting what you have. If you do those things, you're going to be a happy man. You're going to be a happy man that can express that to a woman, build a happy relationship. All right. Hope you're enjoying the course. This is week 5. Keep on your activities because we got more coming. Rapport cycling is next. It is the ultimate social dynamic for connection. Get ready because it has not stopped. Let's do it, guys.